Dumelang, welcome to Face the Nation. My name is Clement Manyatela. It's great to have you with us here on SABC News. On the show tonight, the police are now investigating allegations that some signatures submitted by the MK party were forged. The IEC says it's hoping that the investigation can be expeditious as the matter is crucial for the conduct of free and fair elections. But what are the chances that the investigation will be done before elections? And if it's concluded after elections, what are the consequences if the allegations are proven? And now that it's clear that the system can be corrupted, should the IEC reconsider the system of signature submissions? The Electoral Commission speak to us tonight. And then later, the multi-party charter, is it crumbling? ActionSA is unhappy with parties in the MPC that have expressed their willingness to co-govern with the ANC after elections. ActionSA leader Herman Mashaba joins us. But first, my comment. So, the National Police Commissioner has confirmed that the police have now launched an investigation into allegations that the MK party forged signatures to qualify for the upcoming elections. Remember, the City Press newspaper reported this past Sunday that the party's former senior official, Lennox Nzondo, confessed to appointing a team of people to assist with the forgery of signatures after the IEC rejected the MK party's initial application for registration. Now, the claims he makes should worry all of us who want to see free and fair elections, because he claims that him and his team fraudulently obtained the names, ID numbers, and cell phone numbers of job seekers. Now, the MK party leadership has indicated that it wasn't aware of this. In fact, they said they would open a case against him. But there's a bigger question and concern here. If the police find through their investigation that the allegations are true, where does that place the legitimacy of the MK party's registration process? If the police investigation is concluded after elections, what happens to the MK party? And to be clear, whether it's the MK party or any other party for that matter, that an investigation finds has submitted fraudulent signatures, that's a conundrum for the IEC. How do they even know if any of the other parties haven't forged signatures? Because the IEC doesn't have the capacity to verify whether the signatures that have been submitted have been forged. All they can do is confirm that the ID numbers submitted are of registered voters. But they can't verify if the signatures are legit or forged, which opens the system to abuse and exploitation. I think what's concerning, at least for me, is that they are relying on the bona fides of political parties. So they are placing responsibility on party administrators. But the reality is that parties and their administrators are capable of dishonesty. They're not beyond reproach. They're capable of corrupting the system. So I think, given what we know now, there's a need to relook at the whole candidate nomination regime. So the question I'm asking you tonight is, should the IEC reconsider the submission of signatures for candidate nomination in light of these suspicions and allegations of forged signatures? And what options are available for the IEC? Should they maybe start, I don't know, sampling data that has been submitted by political parties? So you take a few names that have been submitted by each party and you select them randomly, you get a call center to contact them and verify if they submitted those details and signatures to the party in question. Is that something that could work? What do you think? Is it time for the IEC to reconsider the submission of signatures for candidate nomination given these claims of forged signatures? Please send us a WhatsApp voice note of your thoughts on 078 459 1897. Send it right now and please tell us your name and surname and where you are sending the voice note from. Please remember to keep the voice note at 30 seconds. Alternatively, you can send us an X on @FaceTheNation SABC. After the break, the IEC's Mawetu Moseri. Stay with us. welcome back. The question we're asking you tonight is whether the IEC should reconsider the submission of signatures for candidate nomination given the claims of forged signatures. We've asked you to send us your WhatsApp voice notes, but also your tweets at Face the Nation SABC. Here's what some of you have had to say. Sipho Piri says voters will audit fraudulent organizations but not voting them. It will end up in election court, which has judges that are quick to decide but delay to give reasons. All right, we'll play more of your WhatsApp voice notes and, of course, bring in more of your tweets throughout the show. But for now, the IEC has urged the police to speed up investigations into suspicions that the MK party submitted false signatures to meet candidate nomination requirements. The commission acknowledges that a criminal complaint has been filed with the South African Police Service and believes that a prompt investigation is critical to the conduct of free and fair elections. Now, while the Electoral Commission claims the signature getaway of the candidate nomination system certify the identity numbers given where of those that are registered citizen, it would be hard to prove whether the signatures were actually of those people. Now, the IEC Deputy Chief Electoral Officer, Mawetu Moseri, joins us now via Zoom. Mr. Moseri, thank you so much for joining us on Face the Nation this evening. So the police have now confirmed that a case has been opened. Are you now reliant on the police investigation to verify the allegations about the fraudulent signatures?
Good evening, Clement and the viewers. Indeed, we rely on a very conclusive investigation that is done by the authority that is assigned investigations, which is the police in this instance. Because what we're dealing with is not the qualification to participate in an election, but we are dealing with a criminal act, as it has been reported, that these signatures were collected in a fraudulent manner, in a false manner, and possibly those who had put their signatures there had no intentions to support the participation of this political party. Had it been disclosed to them, they would have decided differently. So that's what we understand the matter is about. And therefore, what this person who has come forward has helped with whistleblowing the matter, it therefore requires a full-on investigation so that we get to the truth. And obviously, some people must go through the criminal process to see whether there are any convictions.
All right. But elections are in a few weeks' time, Mr. Moseri, and yes, an expeditious investigation is essential. But what are the chances that the probe will be done before we head to the polls? Because this issue is important to clarify as soon as possible for the conduct of free and fair elections.
Clement, probably I would say it's idealistic that we could get a conclusive picture from the investigations on this matter before the elections. We are indeed just 28 days away from the actual voting day. And obviously we have other jurisdictions that are voting in about 16 days. So in that context, we may conduct the election without this particular investigation being concluded. However, it is also in our interest as citizens and the country that a thorough and a proper investigation is done, even if taking action takes place post the election, it must still be done properly. For us, ideally, it would have been good to go into the election, the matter having been resolved.
So if the police investigation then is completed, after the elections, I mean, that brings about challenges for the IEC, depending on what that investigation finds. So if the probe finds that there were fraudulent signatures, what happens then to the MK party? What options are available?
Well, it's difficult to speculate fully on the possibilities beyond the elections. One would want to assume maybe the party has won seats, maybe the party would not have won seats out of this election, and therefore there wouldn't be further action in as far as those who are MPs, MPLs. But if the party has won seats, then there would be implications for those who have been elected on behalf of the party. So it's a bit speculative at this stage. I would say where we are, the election will proceed with all of us knowing that there's a matter under investigation, and hopefully it is concluded early enough by the South African police.
And let's say it is concluded early enough and the allegations say are proven. Would the MK party then be given another opportunity to submit a new batch of signatures to meet the requirements if this investigation is concluded before the elections?
No, Clement. The whole process of candidate nomination has closed, and if there is fault to what was submitted, obviously, even on our side as the commission, it is not clear cut. The current legislative framework that we work on is not clear cut on what we do, on what we discover post the close of candidate nomination, as well as certification of candidates. So it would be a new scenario and matters to deal with for the commission. So we will have to gather and also take advice from lawyers on the best way possible to deal with the circumstances at hand.
So as the IEC, Mr. Mosere, you don't have the capacity to verify whether the signatures that are submitted have been forged. You can only, in my understanding, confirm that the ID numbers that are submitted are of registered voters, but you can't verify if the signatures are legit or forged, which opens the system to abuse and exploitation.
Well, it is not an issue of capacity. The way we look at it, it is a matter that was not intended for the commission to investigate. In the way we got our mandate on this, it was to collect the signatures, confirm that they are the required number of signatures for nomination. Thirdly, confirm that there are IDs and those IDs are valid. And lastly, to confirm that those who supported the nomination of a political party are indeed registered voters to participate in this election. In the case of the province that we're talking about, are they also registered voters in that province to be able to support a nomination in that province?
But the challenge now is that there are instances where people can, in fact, go and get the database of contact details of people that have actually registered to vote. Like we are hearing in this case of MK, that this is something that may have happened. You get a database, you cross-reference that with the voters' roll, it checks that the people are registered, you take their details, you put them, you forge the signatures. I mean, that still somehow puts eggs on the credibility of that process if, as the IEC, you are unable to confirm whether, in fact, as Clement, my details that are there and the signature that is purported to be mine that is there is truly mine.
Indeed, as I indicate that it was never intended that it is our role and mandate to investigate how these signatures are collected. One matter that we should not probably ignore when we deal with this issue before the nation is that we work on the basis of trust and integrity on the part of political parties themselves. Certainly, these are political parties who want to be in charge of our nation and our state. They ought to be more honorable than what is being suggested by this process. So in these circumstances, it becomes a fraudulent act, and therefore it has to be investigated criminally.
But is it enough, though, to place that responsibility on the party administrators? Because essentially what you're saying is that rests on the bona fides of parties. But parties and the administrators are capable of dishonesty. They're not beyond reproach. They're capable of corrupting the system.
Also, the legislators are of the view that people who administrate parties, people who lead parties, should be people who are honorable and people who have the nation's interest at the top of their agenda, to the extent that they will not act in a manner that is fraudulent, that leads us to the kind of discussion we are having this evening. It is really an unfortunate act of our politicians, and I do hope as we discover incidents of this nature, it teaches the would-be government, the would-be parliamentarian, that we need to also, within our own political parties, as administrators, as party leaders, act in a respectable manner that protects the Constitution and the people of South Africa.
But is it not naive, Mr. Rosemary, with all due respect, to expect political parties or have that kind of expectation that political parties will be honest and transparent in their actions? I understand that the legislators or drafters of our Constitution may not have foreseen the kind of politicians we may have in some instances. But I would suggest that it's naive to rely heavily on the bona fides of political parties in this kind of instance.
It is not naive, Clement. It is part of the scheme in terms of political management and the electoral process, that there would be responsibilities entrusted on political parties. We entrust them with capturing their own candidates in the order of preference or priority of the party. We expect them to have these kind of policy frameworks that they are marketing with the rest of us as citizens. So we political parties shoulder a lot more than we always realize and as citizens. So in this instance, we entrusted them to nominate their candidate to ensure that their party is supported. In the event the case is proven that it was not so, therefore the state must act criminally to deal with that.
So now that we know that some people can forge signatures, there's a need probably to look at the candidate nomination regime for the country. Do you not think that that's something to consider?
Certainly, when we review the conclusion of this election, we will evaluate and review every aspect of this electoral process and candidate nomination, particularly this candidate nomination of these general elections. There are a few of the things that we did as a country for the first time, so there will be a need for us to review them. And if the law needs to be rewritten, we will advise and recommend to the new administration, the 7th administration, to look at that and proclaim amendments.
One of the suggestions that have been put forward by some people is that you could just sample the data that is submitted by political parties. So you take, let's say, 100 of the names that are submitted by each party, you randomly select those names, You get a call center to contact them and verify if they submitted their details and signatures to the party in question. Is that something that could work?
It would not work because in our space we work on 100% verification. If we were asked to verify whether those people confirmed to have nominated that particular party, we will have to do 100% check. Now, remember that there is no bank or repository of signatures. So indeed, we could not compare what we saw on the documents submitted with anything else. So we relied to an extent with the current regime of our framework that when there's inspection of candidate documents, that citizens will also inspect, NGOs will inspect, yourselves as media, as well as other political parties. They would inspect this list, and if they see something abnormal or something incorrect, they raise an objection, and we would have dealt with this objection. So having said everything I've said, there was an opportunity for an inspection that could have raised an alarm much earlier than where we are now with the process.
But to be clear, as the IEC, unless someone comes and objects to perhaps the signatures that you have already published, or someone confesses and says, in this case of the MK party, and says, I got a team to go and forge signatures, as the IEC, you are not able to verify whether or not the signatures that have been submitted by all these political parties are legit.
Yes, it goes back to the earlier submission that our duty was not to verify how signatures were collected. Our duty was to confirm that they are there, they are the requisite number, and their ID numbers of registered voters. And on that aspect, we did 100% check, and we confirmed that we had all the required signatures and of registered voters in that province. So we were satisfied in terms of the responsibility we had as the Electoral Commission.
All right. Lastly, there are some South Africans, Mr. Moseri, that saw a picture of you as the IEC that you've posted, the IEC leadership with the U.S. ambassador to South Africa. And there have been questions about why that meeting took place ahead of elections. And I saw some party leaders raising concerns too. And I know this is not unusual for the IEC to meet with diplomats. Which other ambassadors have you engaged or are planning to engage? And what's the purpose of these discussions?
Let me start by saying the picture was actually not posted by the Electoral Commission. It was posted by the ambassador of United States in South Africa. True, we have met a number of ambassadors, and amongst those, we've met the Latin American ambassadors. So when we refer them like that, we basically are saying the whole of South America has come and had meetings with us, and in the same or similar fashion as the United States. We've also met with the EU ambassadors on the same basis. And we are about to meet two more groupings of ambassadors. We are about to meet with the African ambassadors, and we'll be meeting with a full diplomatic corps that is accredited for South Africa in the next few weeks. So it's normal work for us to meet with these diplomats. Part of why we do this is to say to them, we are organizing a credible election and assure them that it would be a fair election. And that the outcome of this election will produce legitimately elected South African leaders who, in their role in the global community, in the international community, must be seen as legitimate leaders and be recognized as such. So it is not abnormal for a country hosting an election that it will interact with the diplomatic corps.
IEC Deputy Chief Electoral Officer Mawetu Moseri, thank you so much for joining us on Face the Nation tonight. All right, let's remind you of the question we are asking tonight on Face the Nation. You've heard what the IEC have had to say. Should the Electoral Commission reconsider the submission of signatures for candidate nominations in light of all these suspicions of forged signatures? Here are some of your tweets. Olile Nzoyi says, not at all. That organization must be removed because they lied. Vuyo says, evening Clemmy, the IEC has been compromised since the leaking of party names. What's happening now is tactical politics. It's late to reconsider now. Tabiso says, no, the IEC must focus on preparing for elections and stop being swayed by those who want to see their political opponents go down. The focus must be on elections. The rest is noise that is designed to destroy, sabotage, and sideline the MK party. So no party has been under attack, even by the IEC, other than the MK party. Remember, you can also send us your WhatsApp voice notes. You can react to that conversation with the IEC's Deputy CEO. The number to send those voice notes is 078 459 1897, and we'll play them before we wrap up the show. After the break, ActionSA leader Herman Mashaba joins us to talk about the multi-party charter. Can this moonshot really reach the moon, or is it going to land somewhere around the sun or maybe in the clouds? We'll find out after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. ActionSA says it still remains committed to the multi-party charter. The party is a key member of the coalition consisting of several opposition parties determined to unseat the ANC. The party has warned against those within the coalition who have shown a willingness to work with the governing party after the May 29th elections. ActionSA leader Herman Mashaba joins us in studio this evening. Welcome to Face the Nation, Mr. Mashaba. Good evening.
No, thank you very much, Clement, and congratulations for your great show. And thank you for the invitation. Clement, just really deal with the issue of the multi-party charter. As ActionSA, we're not just legally committed because that agreement is not legally binding, but morally it is binding. We signed that in front of the nation. It's not something that you play around with. Yeah. And Clement, before signing that agreement, remember we had 2 days session to discuss the terms of our agreement. Our other parties had a clause where they were saying, in the event that the multi-party charter does not get 50+1, every party must be allowed to exercise their rights. And for us as ActionSA, after hours of debate, we then came out with our own view. We said, okay, if majority feels that you want to have an opportunity to really decide, as ActionSA, we want to refuse. We want another clause that is only applicable to ActionSA. We want an ActionSA clause that says we'll never work with the ANC under no circumstance. And an hour before the press conference, they all agreed with us. But we hear murmurings lately, so we don't know if people are still committed. But us as ActionSA, we are morally committed. Those who feel that they are going to be in breach of this agreement, then are the ones who must leave the multi-party charter.
What is that agreement that the other parties agreed with ActionSA on? Are you saying that clause that you wanted to be applicable only to ActionSA that says we will not enter into coalition?
We will not entertain. It is there.
So did the parties also agree with that clause?
They eventually, an hour before the press conference,
they agreed.
They agreed to that. We can't have two clauses which are in conflict. They agreed with us because we said, guys, If it means we must miss this press conference, we are happy because we are not really prepared to be in an environment where we leave South Africans guessing us. I mean, there's such a massive trust deficit in this country between politicians and civil society. And what created this? It is this inconsistency. It is this flip-flopping. And I think for us as ActionSA, when we commit to something, we commit. If we do change our minds because obviously things don't work, we will then to communicate with people why we feel whatever we deciding cannot work. So working with the ANC is out of the question.
So what does this mean? The fact that because it appears like you're not singing from the same hymn on this particular issue, because as you say, there are other political parties that have expressed this willingness since that press conference. What does it say about the MPC? Is it crumbling?
Not really, because every time when we have meetings, we have with them. They always claim to us that they're committed to that agreement that they signed in front of the nation. So, but what sometimes utterances that we hear out there, we can't hold them accountable. So you, the media, must hold them accountable. That agreement, Clement, it's a public document. You cannot look at that clause. It says you cannot entertain any negotiations with the ANC under no circumstances.
What does that tell you about these political parties who say one thing in the meeting and they go out and suggest something different?
It's actually quite sad. I think, for me, it really breaks my heart when you deal with people who are prepared to say one thing and go and do something different. Fortunate enough, Clement, I've had a discussion with you you've interviewed me on many occasions. The teachings from my grandfather still really, it's in my DNA. That's why some people think I'm a tough and reasonable person, because Clement, I'm not the kind of person to say something to you and I go and do something different. If I don't agree with you, I will tell you in your face. If we don't agree, then that's fine. Let it be. But I'm not the kind of person that anyone in this world will ever hold a gun at my head to say, you did smallanyana thing and will hold the gun, because I'll never do it to anyone. And that's why I'm open with people where I don't agree with them. And when they don't agree with me, tell me why you don't agree with me. And I'm happy. It doesn't mean that if you don't agree with me, we become enemies.
Yeah, but trust is important. And what I'm seeing is that there is no trust in the MPC, because there are certain things that are said in meetings and then certain things are said outside. So how do you keep this multi-charter holding if there is no trust? Because that's quite essential.
I think, to be honest with you, Clement, I think let's not leave the voters out, South African population. They are the ones who've got to really make a decision, because for us as ActionSA, when we contest, when we go out and campaign, we don't go out and campaign on behalf of other parties. We go and campaign on our own to say South Africans give us outright majority. But is it attainable? It is for that reason that we are pragmatic. We to say, let's then have a multi-party charter so that in the event we don't get outright majority, we can have the better devils to work with. So the voters must be the ones who must make this decision, because honestly, how do I speak for other parties? I can have a meeting with you, we agree, we sign agreements in front of this nation and the world. We do not even, on that day, the media we had was not only South Africa, we had literally media from all over the world. And that document is a public document. So I think it is up to South African voters to really make that decision who they vote for.
Which begs the question, why should the South Africans trust the multi-party charter if you yourselves in the multi-party charter don't trust each other?
No, it's not a question. No, Clement, right now I don't really have anything where we can ask anyone to leave the multi-party charter because they're in breach of our agreement. Because every time when we engage with them, and we've got minutes of our regular meetings when these issues come out, but they go out and really say something and then it says no, they come out and tell us people are misinterpreting what they're saying. So what I'm saying is, let's not really leave the South African voters out of this. Let them also take the responsibility to ensure that they can hold politicians accountable.
But do you get the point I'm making, that South Africans who are watching what's happening in the MPC are wondering, should we really have hope in this formation of political parties when they say one thing in their meetings and then others go out and say something differently?
No, okay. I think, Clement, I think the South African voters, honestly, with due respect, they're not that stupid. It is up to them to then decide which political parties they are prepared to back so that those parties can have outright majority if they trust us as ActionSA. It's up to them. I can't really force people to vote for us. I can go out and campaign. I can go and sell our policies to them and what we stand for. Ultimately, when you get into that booth, that's something that, honestly, I cannot take responsibility for it.
Yeah,
it's impossible.
Yeah, you spoke about being pragmatic. After the break, I'll ask Herman Mashaba, the ActionSA leader, whether it is even practical that the multi-party charter can defeat and unseat the ANC. So are the numbers numbering? That's the conversation we'll have after the break. Stay with us here on Face the Nation. Welcome back. I'm still in conversation with ActionSA leader Herman Mashaba in studio with us. Mr. Mashaba, you spoke about being pragmatic as ActionSA. So let's be practical. What are the chances that the MPC will defeat the ANC? Because the numbers are not enough. Without the EFF, you would need the DA to grow its support by over 10%, which is really not practical. Or get ActionSA.
Why do you say it's not practical? Are you a Sangoma or some kind of
I'm
prophet?
looking, have you ever seen a political party that grows like that in South Africa?
Well, tell me, have you ever seen a political party launched during COVID, contest 6 municipalities and emerge as the 6th biggest political party in the country? Contesting 6 municipalities out of 278. Did it ever happen in South Africa?
And that was the
and at the time, we remembered a few weeks before this contestation, before the elections, IEC played a dirty one on us, forcing us to contest as a logo, costing us over 60,000 votes. So we would have with those 60,000 votes, would definitely be the 5th biggest
there are political
party.
parties that have been formed before in the country that have done incredibly well. When COPE was formed, when they contested elections for the first time, that was a success. So was with the EFF. Congratulations to you, because ActionSA was also a success. The MK party, from what the polls are telling us, that is also a success.
I would laugh about the polls. I think it's one of the biggest jokes.
But the broader question I'm asking is, do you think that as the multi-party coalition, you can, practically speaking, really garner 50% plus?
Well, I think it depends how much effort we put between now and the 29th of May, because South Africans are tired. South Africans are hard-fall. South Africans cannot take it any longer where 86 of us are being murdered, where this government has unleashed murderers to kill us, where every 11 seconds a woman is raped in this country, where we have the highest sustainable unemployment rate in the world. I can go on and on. All this lived experience of South Africans. You can't, fortunately, fool them forever. And that's a space where ActionSA is playing. We're working hard. We will sleep after delivering sterling results on our own or part of the multi-party charter. But we're confident on our own that we are going to really do well.
And on your own, and as the multi-party charter, you're confident the other parties will increase their support?
Well, the thing is that I don't know really there are plans and strategies, because it's every party, if you look at our agreement, every party must go out and get as many voters as possible as a political party. And that's what we're doing.
But when you sit in your meetings, I'm sure you discuss and you say, this is the momentum, this is what we're projecting.
No, we're not going to share.
You don't discuss what
we're not gonna, even if anyone can try and get us to share our strategies with them, absolutely, we're not going to share our strategies.
So it's just a dream that you're probably going to get 50%
No, it's not a dream.
No,
it's not a dream. It's something that we practice. Clement, we work damn hard. We go out. As I'm talking to you right now, I don't know how many branches are open in the country. Please go into our social media platforms. You look at branches being opened throughout the country. Are you aware we've already covered 52% of the wards where we've got branches in South Africa? We're a 3.5-year-old party. And our target is to be pushing our guys. We want, by the time we go into elections, which is in a month's time, our teams need to get us 60% minimum So we definitely want more, but we want a minimum of 60% of the wards where we've got branches. And it's not a pipe dream. We've got 52% already, a 3-year-old party.
52% of what?
Of the wards, because you open a branch in each ward.
Okay, but that doesn't translate to support at the election.
No, but what I'm trying to say, when you have a branch, I don't know which ward you live in, so that basically means we have 50 people in that particular ward who go out every day campaign. So we're not really leaving things to chance. We don't work on guesswork or chances. Clement, I'm a trader. It's in my blood. Obviously, it's long before you were born. You know, when I started Black Lives Matter in 1985 with 30,000 rands, everyone said the stakes were against me. All the big multinationals and South African companies stopped all the distributors from taking my products. I went. And I used to do 10,000 kilometers every month. So it's on record. I used to service my car every month. I literally had to replace my car every year or every second year, depending on the state of that car. It did not happen. I set up distributors throughout the country. So where to start? My first distributor was a guy called Tobejani in Dobsonville. And we went throughout. And set up a distribution network, then going to the next the town. So I think I'm a trader. And by 1990, I don't know if you're aware, by 1990, the business that I started with a 30,000 rands loan from Walter Dube. 30,000 rands loan from Walter Dube, the most expensive funding. By 1990, I'd already built my own factory in Mabopane, costing me over 10 million rands. And I didn't owe anyone a cent.
And that's a success story, but setting up a business is different from setting up a political party and contesting at national level.
Yeah, well, tell me what is the same in life? Tell me two human beings, even twins who are 100% the same. Life doesn't really operate in that fashion. What you do, I think, I always tell people, and that's what my grandfather taught me, that as a human species, God has given us this little brain to navigate the challenges of life. So are you aware when I joined politics, when I accepted to be the mayor of the city of Johannesburg, are you aware I had no clue what the mayor does? Absolutely no clue. I didn't even know where the offices were. I didn't know that there's what is called a ward, and we had a ward councillor. I didn't know all this. What I did, I used my common sense. Looking at what this highness were doing, I said, if this highness can do it, I can do it better. And 3 years later. 3 years as a mayor, it's on record. Please check the Auditor General's record of my administration. So what I'm saying is, and I'm not saying it's the same, because even products, if I come out with a particular kind of shampoo, there'll be another different shampoo. So nothing is the same in the world.
Do you agree as the MPC with the DA when it refers to the EFF as political enemy number one? Because that's part of the reason why they never even wanted them to be part of the multi-party charter.
Yeah, no, that's something that we've raised as a concern, because the enemy of South Africa is not the EFF. As ActionSA, we very clear about not working with the EFF at national level, because our policy offering is diabolically different. So we can't work with the EFF. But to work with the EFF at local government level, I've got practical experience of working with the EFF, and very supportive, because at local government level, no policy issues. It's about the budget. We've got a 70 billion rands budget. We then agree this is where we're going to spend it, and I shared this with our coalition partners. If they agree or whatever, I take it to council, it gets approved. But at national level, no way that ActionSA will work with the EFF, because honestly, I would not want EFF to go into a coalition with us as ActionSA and tell us we must vote for a particular policy of owning banks and taking my own house, land, and so forth. I would not want to really have those kind of discussions. I'll be putting the country at risk. Unfortunately, the EFF policies at national level will destroy this country in a matter of 6 months.
Who are you prepared to work with then at national level at ActionSA?
Well, the only party party at national level.
Apart from the MPC?
At the national level, it's the ANC. And why we cannot work with the ANC, I've been really very clear why I will not work with the ANC, because Clement, I was born in poverty. And God prevented me, shielded me from getting involved in crime. The only thing I did was to play dice and was an oxman and to be able to really go to school. And fortunate enough, at the age of 22, I decided to give myself the financial independence. That's how I went into business. And the country and the world rewarded me handsomely. Now you can imagine at my age, I must be associated with criminal syndicates. I cannot. EFF, it's because of their policies that I cannot work with them. All the other parties, including PA.
Including the MK party?
What? Including the MK party? No, MK party, no ways. Personally, over my dead body, I can work with. Tell me, you work with MK party. You go into a second sitting of Parliament, and the Zondo report gets presented. Now, how do you expect us to vote? That government will collapse within a matter of months. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that one out. So it is for that reason we can't really work with people with such major, not small nyana things. Those guys have got, you can drive a tractor through the small, what they call the small nyana things. So for that reason, MK will never touch. We'd rather be in opposition.
There are some concerns that are being raised about, you may have heard the conversation we had with the IEC's Deputy CEO, Mr. Mosery, around signatures that are apparently have been forged by a former senior leader of the MK party. And part of the question I've been asking tonight is whether we need to reconsider that system. And I know that there have also been rumors about other political parties that may or may not have forged their signatures. Does it concern you as political parties that there is no system in place or capacity within the IEC to verify if the signatures and the details of people that have been submitted by political parties are actually details of people that they purport to be of, and they are confirmed, those signatures to be of people that are verified and willingly submitted that information to the political parties? Without any doubt, Clement, this matter is of major concern to us as ActionSA, because we cannot, in the life of us or me, where the IEC come out with a requirement where they don't really have a way of measuring it or looking at the credibility of it. I think it's a reflection on the IEC, and the IEC must really take the responsibility for this. But it's a major concern, and we hope that it's not something that we can really use to delay elections when our people are being mad at. Human trafficking is getting out of hand. Our youth are being killed by drug dealers and so forth, drug syndicates. So I think the sooner we can go to the elections, those parties that have registered, that IEC find a way to deal with it. I can't speak on their behalf, but one thing for sure is that it's something that we find unacceptable. Where you are saying you come out with a requirement, but you have no way of measuring its credibility. Honestly, it's a reflection on the IEC. Before we wrap up, the new Ekurhuleni mayor delivered his first State of the City address today. As ActionSA, you are a political party that led the efforts to remove the previous mayor. Are you satisfied as ActionSA with this new mayor, Nkosi Mpile Xakaza? Well, because I had a very busy day. In one of the news bulletins earlier this afternoon, I heard our caucus leader speaking of this. In fact, I was not even aware that there was a council meeting. That as ActionSA, they're going to hold him accountable. Insourcing being one of the requirements, because the city of Ekurhuleni has passed the motion to insource our exploited workers. So we're going to hold them accountable. So
one thing that we've experienced with the ANC EFF government is that they go and promise one thing and go into just something completely different. Will they be able to not deal with corruption? Personally, I'll be lying if I'll tell you that I trust that they will not really get involved in corruption because they don't have measures to counteract levels of corruption.
So,
in the municipality.
And you've always consistently said you're working towards getting the ANC out of power, whether it's at national, at provincial, at a metro level. But when he was elected, this new mayor, he was elected unopposed. Did your councillors object to his election?
No, look, I'm sure this is a mathematical issue. ActionSA has got 15 councillors in the city of Ekurhuleni. So even if we had to really put our own candidate and get supported by other political parties, it wouldn't make sense. I mean, just a MACO, you need 10 MACO members. And you look at majority of our councillors are new in the political field. So they agreed and presented to us that they're not going to field. The reason why they put this motion was that the previous mayor was just really completely useless, and they started first engaging the EFF and ANC to say, guys, this puppet mayor of yours is really letting the residents of Ekurhuleni down. And with them not succeeding, they decided to put in that motion. But they did not put that motion because they wanted a mayorship, because you just don't have the numbers.
So this new ANC mayor is better than the previous one?
Well, it's still really early days to be able to gauge. But my experience of ANC over the last 30 years, I only know of the 5 years of Nelson Mandela, because I voted for him and I voted for Thabo Mbeki in 1999. And since then, everything just went away. We've had one, after Mandela, we've had one bad president after the other, starting with Thabo Mbeki. We thought this man it's out of his depth with what he's doing. Okay. Then they gave us Mr. MK. Then after Mr. MK, now they gave us Mr. Phala. So it's getting worse. I mean, corruption today in South Africa, it's a free-for-all, because Mr. Phala is busy with Angolas and money under mattresses. It's got nothing to do with us.
All right. ActionSA leader Herman Mashaba, I appreciate your time on Face the Nation tonight. Let's wrap up with some of the tweets that you have sent us tonight. We have been asking you about the IEC, and of course, after this conversation with Herman Mashaba, you've had a few things to say. Guguletu says, I like Mashaba so much, but I have a conundrum in understanding why this issue should divide them. The DA has a policy that says they will never work with the EFF, but at one stage, Mr. Mashaba begged the DA to work with them. ActionSA doesn't want to work with the ANC. That's fine.
But this was, Clement, it was at the local government level.
Yeah, and then another one, Kamorelo says, yes, the IEC, responding to the question we asked earlier around the signature system the IEC uses, Kamorelo says the IEC should vet all the submission of signatures submitted for candidate nomination. Signature fraud is rife and people will do anything to bypass the system. There should be measures in place to guard against such illegal acts. And here's a voice note that also came through tonight.
Hi, I'm Albert Lehata from Protea North. What I would suggest is the SAP, South African Police Service, to consult the call centers and then to try to probe into about 80% of those signatories. If they are fraud, then the party shall have to be disqualified. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much for all your inputs, and thanks for being with us tonight on Face the Nation. Thank you for watching. Cheers.